And we are also recording this as well. All right, so welcome everybody. We're gonna kind of get started here. My name is Derek Smith, and I'm a career strategist at the Academic Advising Career Center. Welcome to Exploring Management Pathways, featuring the IT double degree, but this also is to do with business, finance, technology. We have a wide range of topics we're going to be covering tonight, which is fantastic. And I'll also be introducing you to our panelists in a few moments, and then we'll get started. So the way the night's going to work is I have a set of questions that are we'll be going through with the panelists. I'm going to ask if you do have questions, fantastic. If you have questions, you can go ahead and drop those in the chat. We will do the formalized questions throughout the first part of our session tonight. And then at the end, we'll go through all the questions in the chat and see what you're asking. And we'll do more of an open floor Q&A at that point, okay? So, but as of right now, why don't we go ahead and get started into our night together. This is going to be fantastic. So a little bit about what's happening. So we have some other events coming up. So our next event is next week for this series, and we're going to be looking at finance itself. So this is more of the technology side of business tonight, although finance will also have some components as well. So feel free to please go ahead and register for the finance night for next week. Also, another program that's coming up I do want to let you know about is the Academic Advising and Career Center. We'll be putting on what's known as the Get Hired Conference. This is a 3-day conference in which we will be doing basically almost like a boot camp for job training, but it's going to be more than that. We're also going to do 3 networking sessions, 1 with alumni and then 2 with actual recruiters coming out. The registration will be opening up for that in the first week of March. We'll start advertising that. Actually, it should be advertised now on the ACC website. So if you're a graduating student or a senior level student, you do want to check out our Get Hired conference. It's designed to get you ready for your next steps. So who am I? So I'm Derek Smith. I'm with the Academic Advising and Career Center. And you may or may not be aware of this, but you have a career center. A lot of management students don't realize they have a career center. Now I realize if you're a co-op, you do have students, you get your co-op coordinators can help you a little bit, but you actually have a full career staff that can help you out. And I'm the representative for the ANCC. So before the whole lockdown situation, I was actually embedded in management 2 days a week, helping all management students, both co-op and non-co-op, specifically with their job search. So just to let you know, the services that are available to you at your career center is we do provide one-to-one appointments. Now, right now they're virtual, so we do both phone and Teams. What we cover and help you with are things such as resume taking and critiquing, job search help, interview preparedness and mock interviews. So we both teach you how to do an interview, and we also do practice interviews themselves. Any kind of career exploration questions you might have, such as, what can I do with this degree? Or what kind of jobs would I actually like? We can help you with that. We also do LinkedIn profile teaching and critiquing. Now, just thinking about LinkedIn for a second there, with this whole pandemic and working virtually, one thing that has been really said to us by many recruiters is that if you're not on LinkedIn, you simply just don't exist right now. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account and you're not active on it and you're trying to find a job, you need to get a LinkedIn account. So we do help you with that. We also help you with any kind of strategic questions you might have about career. So please feel free to go ahead and book an appointment. Our phone number is right there and our email address is there. And again, you have a career center, you have career services to help you out. Okay. Let's meet our panelists. So we have 4 individuals who are alumni who've decided to come and help us out tonight. We're very appreciative of them helping us, and I'm going to introduce them quickly to you, and then we're going to jump into the night. So let's talk about who our panelists are. First of all, I want to introduce you to Dion. You can do a little wave there so everybody knows here that Dion. Everybody's been spotlighted. He's a recent graduate from the Management IT program, so December 2020, so brand new grad. And he's currently working at OTPP as an investment services administrator in data management. He got his offer in July 2020 after his internship in summer 2019. And prior to OTPP, he worked at RBC and Flip. So Dion, brand new to the full-time workforce. Can't wait to hear your story there. Talhal is a UTSC management IT graduate. Talhal, you can do a little bit of wave so everybody sees who you are there. He currently working in an SaaS company, SAS company called Covio, previously working at Accenture RBC and Swiss VBS. He's specializing in delivering Salesforce solutions for both internal and external stakeholders, acting as a business and technology consultant. He's worked with both business and technology partners for Salesforce implementations for various financial institutions in Canada, while at Accenture, and his current role is focused on long-term roadmap for revamp the Coveo customer and partner community, the platform that manages customer engagement and retention. Fantastic. Abdinar, you do a little wave there. Hello. He specializes in finance and mirrored in computer science at UTSC. His work experience includes an 8-month business analyst internship at, I guess, HOP, H-O-P-P, and a 4-month quantitative analysis internship at a $7 billion Toronto-based hedge fund. That's quite the money there. Currently, he's doing his Master's of Engineering, which is a mixture of finance and engineering at St. George. Thank you. And finally, Brady. If you do a little wave there, Brady, thank you. He's a UTSC alumni from the Management Co-op BBA program. He specializes in IT. Upon completing his degree in April 2019, he returned to his hometown of Sudbury. He works in a business systems lead for Vail. It's a mining company, and also teaches business analytics part-time at Cambrian College. He enjoys watching sports, enjoying outdoors with his partner, and entertaining their cat, Mr. Whitaker. So you actually yell out Mr. Whitaker and you gotta find them. That is absolutely awesome. Okay, so these are our panelists. So before we jump right into the questions, what is this program, right? Is the IT Double Dip program, and it's a broad range of expertise. It covers business management, quantitative analysis, and IT skills, focusing mostly on finance, but not only finance, and quantitative methods. Some sample jobs that you can get into with this. And again, this is a wide range of fields. So with our 4 panelists tonight, we're going to find out a lot about this industry. So you can look at things such as financial business analyzation, project assistants, business systems analysts, consulting associate, data incentives analysts, but there's many more types of positions we could take a look at, and that's what we're going to find out more about tonight. So welcome, everybody. So once again, to our all the students that have joined us, thank you again for joining us. The chat feature is open. Again, the way the night will work is I'll go ahead and ask each of the panelists a question. We're going to basically do it in a circle format. And you are welcome to drop questions in the chat. All questions, though, in the chat will be answered at the end. So please feel free to put questions in the chat throughout the night at the time tonight, but at the end, we will go ahead and answer those. Once we've done the formalized portion of our time together, I will also go ahead and open the floor for any kind of questions you might have at that point. But why don't we go ahead and jump in? Now, I just went ahead and did a quick introduction, but what I'd like to do now, panelists, is find out a little bit more about you. So our first question is, please taking a moment to introduce yourself a little bit more. So a little bit about what you studied at UTSC, some of your brief experiences, and a little bit about your current role in your company. So Brady, you're next to me on here, so can you please start?
Sure, thanks, Derek. Can you guys all hear me? All right, yep. Well, I'm Brady, and as mentioned, I'm a UTSC graduate in April 2019. And when I started, they didn't have the double degree, which is a very unique offering they have now. So I kind of wanted that tech experience and business experience while I was in school. So I did the management and IT specialist stream, which really gave me a good grasp of both computer science and business. I was in co-op within UTSC, so I did my first co-op term for 8 months with Ontario Lottery and Gaming, where I worked in strategy and analytics. And my second co-op term was more of a business one, which was with PepsiCo in corporate sales. Upon completing my degree, I really wanted to move back to Sudbury. That is where my heart was. So I kind of had a few opportunities that I turned away, but I came to Sudbury and was fortunate enough that I got headhunted online through LinkedIn for Vale, which is the second biggest mining company in the world. So I started there on contract within the procurement department, and my first week, 3 people left the department. So I was very fortunate that there were some full-time opportunities available, and within my first month of being on contract, I was converted to full-time. I spent about 1.5 years within procurement, but I really wanted more of that tech appetite, and I felt that I was losing some of that skill set that I'd worked so hard to build on. So I applied at Cambrian College here within Sudbury and was accepted to be a part-time professor of business analytics. So I did that on the side as well. and I still wanted more appetite for systems and analytics. So I moved roles in January of this year as a business systems lead role in the contractor performance management. So part of my job in our department is to manage all the contractors that we have working on our site. So we have an immense workforce in mining, but an even more immense workforce of other companies that assist the mining process. So our job is, as a department, is to manage the spend and monitor their performance. And what I've been doing recently is building a lot of analytics dashboards to track a lot of the key performance indicators to measure our contractor performance.
Thank you, Brady. We'll find out more about your day-to-days in a few moments. Dion, I see you next beside there. Talk about yourself. And now Dion and I have an interesting relationship. You came to me, what was it, third year? I think it was. Third year. Saying, how do I get a job in fourth year? And here you are. So excellent. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I studied at UTSC, like Brady, in the management and IT specialist. I also minored in computer science, although I didn't get it because COVID denied me one of the prerequisites that I wanted to take. So I just graduated without the minor. Brief talk about my past experiences. I worked at Flip. That was my first co-op. I worked in their operations department, did a bit of data quality work there. I then moved to RBC for cybersecurity. And finally, I moved to OTPP and their data management team for my final co-op. You can very much tell which one I like the best because I went back after I graduated for a full-time position in their new grad program. So I'm on the same team again. So what I do is essentially before any financial analysts or any risk analyst gets the data, we take a look at it and we say, does this seem reasonable? Is this okay? We're in charge of making sure that data lands on time from all our different data vendors. We're in charge of data quality, data assurance. So really anything data related, we get to touch it first. Yeah, and that's kind of it for me.
Oh, you're muted, Derek.
All right, thank you. We'll find out more about your data in a few moments here. Adner, actually, thank you for that. You're next on my list. Tell us a little bit about yourself there.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Derek, for organizing this and for inviting me. And to all of you who are attending this event, I think you're doing a great job. I think you should all get involved, and it's probably one of the advice that I'm going to give you at the end if prompted. So a little bit of myself, so I've been TAing UTSC for a long time now, for I think 2.5 years. So if you guys are in the first 2 years of school, you probably recognize me. But yeah, I studied finance, specialized in finance at UTSC, and I also took a minor in comp sci. In terms of work experience, my latest one was at a hedge fund called Picton Mahoney. My role there was to be a quantitative analyst. I also worked in the same company as a product analyst, and it was somewhat of a similar role. And finally, I worked at Hoop, which is a pension fund located in Toronto as well. And my role there was a business analyst, and it was essentially to bridge a gap of communication between the software developers and also the portfolio managers. Right now, I am back to school for a master's, and I'm in St. George, as Derek mentioned, and I am enrolled in the Master of Engineering program, and I'm specializing in finance.
Thank you so much. And Talha, tell us a little bit about yourself there. Talha, go ahead.
Thanks, Derek. Hey, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you all. So my name is Talha. I graduated from UTSC's Management and IT program back in December of 2017. So Dion and I go back when we were part of MTA, so the Management and Tech Association. That's when it pretty much started, really. There was nothing about management tech when I came in. I was actually specializing in accounting when I was in UTSC management. And then halfway, probably through my third year, was when I decided, like, hey, I really wanted to get a lot more insight and wanted to step my foot into somewhere where I can put into practice my business and technology skills. And if there is a career for that when I graduate, then I would want to go for something like that as my preference. So I researched a lot. There wasn't really much back then. Now there's a lot more resources for you to look into with business, technology, finance, whatever have you. But the only one that was offered at that time was management and IT. And at that time, there wasn't anyone that I knew of that that was really in the program or was taking that stream of work within the management stream. So I took a leap of faith and started off with the program. And it was very different back then. And I'm sure it's really different right now. But yeah, it set me up really well for a career after graduation. I wanted to, like I said, get my foot into somewhere where I'm in the intersection between business and technology. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the new grad program at Accenture. So I started at Accenture right out of university when I graduated. I was there for about 2.5 years or so. So I wore many different hats while I was there, working with different clients and different clients and different projects. So I situated myself within like the whole Salesforce platform. So I was there for about 2.5 years, and I recently joined Coveo. So Coveo is a search relevance platform. So a lot of the industry companies that are out there that actually have search for consumers. Coveo is the one that powers the whole search and like the whole relevance aspect of things. So I'm working with their Salesforce team and completely redoing their Coveo community that's tailored towards all their customers and partners. So I'm there as like a business technology platform specialist, you can say, for Salesforce. And I've been there for about 3 months or so, and so far so good. And I'm looking forward to sharing my experience with all of you.
Great, thank you so much. So our next question is really about your day-to-day. So we heard a little bit about your roles, but if you could please describe more in detail what your current role looks like. So what are you doing day-to-day? What are your goals? Just to give everybody an idea more of what your actual job does look like. So Dion, why don't we start with you this time?
Yeah, sure. So my roles kind of split into two different things. The first half is basically making sure nothing is on fire. So I very quickly check, are there any specific data quality issues that have popped up this morning? Are any of our downstream teams, like risk, performance, financial reporting, have they said that, something looks funny? Could you take a look into it? So for example, today, I noticed that we pretty much got no data from one of our vendors, and it was a very big problem because, without the data, they can't trade. So my job was to look into it, alert the vendor, escalate to the required teams, database administrators, developers, et cetera, et cetera. The other half of my job is process automation and report generation. So we do a lot of data quality reports for our downstream teams. A lot of them are done in Python or Power BI with a mix of SQL. So spending hours in a table trying to create the perfect query in order to get what I need, and then building the dashboard or building the Python script in order to pull it and deliver it to the people who need it. So yeah, that's kind of my role and what I do in a day-to-day. Derek, you're muted again.
I'm muted again. I always mute to be polite, then I forget to turn it off. Okay, Abdinur, let's go to you now. Now you're a little bit different because you're a TA, but let's talk more about what you're actually doing with your master's program. I'm sure this is very interesting to hear about.
In terms of my master's, we're mainly doing lots of math courses with that are more targeted towards finance. So that's what I'm doing in my master's. A lot of probability theory, optimization. And by optimization, I mean portfolio optimization, for example. How do you maximize your level of return for a given level of risk? So that kind of thing. I've taken lots of machine learning courses that are applied to finance. Can you use machine learning or artificial intelligence to trade? So these are the courses that I'm taking right now. But in terms of my work experience, which you guys might find more relevant, I used quite a bit of programming and finance knowledge, as well as a little bit of math. In terms of programming, I had to build an application that automatically takes in a particular portfolio, right? And then it'll completely decompose it section by section so that you know exactly why you made money, why you lost money, and that kind of thing. My other tasks were so hedge funds, for those of you who don't know, are essentially people that manage other people's money, and they offer products which they call hedge funds, and they need to sell those funds. And by selling them, I mean they collect people's money, and then they take a percentage of the money collected as revenue for them. So they need to sell their funds, and my role was to kind of convince the financial advisors why they should go with our funds. So what I would do is I would apply probability theory into um, analyzing this client's actual current portfolio. I would see what are the risks that are exposed to. I would see what are the opportunities that they are missing, and then I would recommend one of our products to these clients. And finally, my other main role was to this hedge funds that I'm in right now, that I was in, is a rules-based firm. That means they automate all the trading. So they're an algorithm so they're not, it's not like a human that's picking stocks or whatever. They have an algorithm for that. And when you have a model that in theory works very well, sometimes in practice it may not work well. And so one of my roles there was to kind of identify why is it that in theory it should have worked, but in practice it did not work. And other stuff that I did was to find out which financial products are cheaper. When you have two financial products that are very similar, but one is cheaper than the other, you should go with the cheaper one. So I've applied quite a bit of probability theory, finance, and programming here. The benefits about this role is it's intellectually stimulating, right? You have to think a lot, so there's not much tedious work that you have to do, not repetitive. And the challenges, and you might see this as a plus, but you'll have to keep learning a lot about new technologies.
Very good. Thank you so much. Interesting. All right, Talha, let's hear about your day.
Okay. This is what I was thinking. What am I going to say about if I'm asked about this question? What's my day to day? So it's interesting because the team that I've joined is really new. It's only myself and like my manager who are part of this new team. So pretty much the product that we're actually targeting right now is, once we have a customer or if someone is on board as a partner for Coveo, they're introduced into a community where they can ask questions, where they can post cases or get support for their product. And this is all done through Salesforce. So for those of you who don't know what Salesforce is a platform that's used by many companies worldwide to manage their sales interactions, their support material, and also like the first point of contact for a lot of customers or partners that people might have to actually carry out their entire sales process or even the support process. So Coveo has their entire support system and their community on Salesforce. And the community was pretty much like a neglected item for Coveo in the last couple of years. And because of the competition going a lot further with how they're providing their end user support, Coveo is kind of lagging behind with that. Now we have a specialized team to actually build up that community so that we're having engaged customers. We're having all of the partners that we work with, communicating with the different customers that we're working with as well. So my responsibility is to pretty much lead the initiatives for that entire revamp. And I'm going about it through a Salesforce perspective. So in order for me to do that, I had to learn the Salesforce platform. I had to get certified in it. And my previous experience at Accenture really helped me build up my experience for this role because of the different clients and the projects that I worked with during my time at Accenture. So right now, we're building out kind of like our phase one of the whole community revamp. And pretty much today was like one of our main days of testing. So my role really has like a variety of different works, ranging from project management to business analysis to stakeholder review and one-on-one walkthroughs with both business and technology members within our Coveo team and the company itself. And also leading these QA and testing initiatives with the different stakeholders involved as well. So I wear different hats depending on what's required, just because it's a new team. But I think that's the beauty of being in a team that's new or open to change, just because of how nimble and agile people can work, and how receptive they are to new ideas. So that's one thing that I also wanted to, jump ship from Accenture to more of a startup company, was because of like the autonomy that you get, and also the experience that you get building out a brand new team and working with people who are motivated to actually build out a team together and improve the product with the same goal. So yeah, that's a bit about what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Brady, let's hear about your day.
So I would say my day is similar to Talha's, that it's very agile and nimble, and it's not a very rigid day-to-day process. And this is also because we're a brand new team, or the department's gone through a full revamp, and this is the first time they've had a business systems type person. So it's given me a lot of flexibility to build the role my own on where I see to provide value to the mining operations. So as far as specifics of my day-to-day, I've been spending a lot of time in Power BI. So I build analytics dashboards that I've been spending a lot of time presenting these dashboards to various stakeholders across different mines within Canada. And apart from that, I've been doing some automation. So we have our own in-house Valet Forms, which is a form system that people can use to, submit a form, and we can track in data. And a lot of meetings. I mean, I don't think that was mentioned by some of the panelists here, but even in tech and business, there's still a lot of meetings on a day-to-day basis that you have to go through. So I think that's something that, being a student, you don't realize, and even as a co-op, you kind of get out of. But as you start to get into your full-time roles outside of school, there's also a lot of meetings. And I think that my role is similar to a lot here, but I think the industry I'm in is very different. So mining is, for those of you that don't know, safety is really our number one priority. So it's drop everything when there's a safety concern, and that's what drives a lot of the decision making in our departments. And then on top of it, it's maintaining that there's no shutdowns. So, if a mine goes down, that's like $1 million a day. And I'm not kidding. Our company did $40 billion of revenue last year. And that's, if you do the math, that's like $110 million a day worldwide. So it's about safety, and it's about ensuring that the operations go forward. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Amazing. So let's talk about why you became interested in the field that you're currently in. So how did you make this decision to go into this route of management? So Abdinur, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. So there are two things that led me to. Initially, I was always in finance, but I didn't have a major interest in IT. But once I read this book by Ray Dalio, he's a hedge fund manager based in the U.S., and he's an amazing guy. I follow him a lot. But he wrote this book called Principles, and I don't know how many of you guys have read it. And if you didn't and you're in finance, I recommend you do it. But essentially, it talks about rules-based investing, how you can stay, because when it comes to investing your money, you can fall victim of your own biases, right? You might freak out and you might sell, or you might buy when the things are too high, all that kind of stuff. So Ray Dalio recommends that you kind of get rid of all these biases by just investing by certain rules. So essentially you program, or you write an algorithm to do your investment. It's called rules-based investing. So you only buy when this happens, no matter what you feel, right? So, and he also talked about a lot about how to build a robust portfolio. And essentially he's saying, oh, you need to have lots of assets that all make money in the long run, but at the same time, they are uncorrelated. So they have nothing to do with each other, but they are expected to make money in the long run. And so if you hold a bunch of these assets, I mean, maybe 5 out of 30 will not do well, but the other 25 are going to do well. And so this kind of idea has really intrigued me. And I noticed that I don't have the technical skills to kind of test this out myself, right? I didn't know like how this has performed historically, right? I'm like, IT is useful here. And so this was one of the catalysts. And the second one is I worked at, my first internship was at a pension fund, as I mentioned, and I was a business analyst there. My role there was to be a bridge between the IT department and the portfolio managers, and I mentioned before. But I noticed that I had a lot of downtime, and um, at the time I knew a little bit of programming. So during that downtime, I would just automate all the tedious tasks that I was given. And that was a lot of fun for me. I loved it. And I came back to school and I took a minor, and that's how it. That's how I got to the quantitative finance industry.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Talha, let's hear about why you got into this field.
Sure. So I kind of touched upon it in my intro. Like I said, I was specializing in the accounting stream when I started university, and then pretty much after my first co-op, in that first co-op, I was working as a project administrator in a small startup for learning solutions called Swiss VBS, and there again, I was wearing different hats and taking on different responsibilities. And I got a little bit of exposure into the tech side of stuff, and that's what really interested me. And when I look back at the courses that I had done within the accounting stream, I'm like, is accounting really something that I really want to do for the rest of my life? And kind of had a retrospective and looked at the different options that were available at UTSC at the time. And of course, there was an IT specialist stream that was available. So I researched on it a little bit, but I didn't really get much out of my research because I didn't have anyone to talk to. So like there's no campus campus club on campus for me to go out and reach out to see if they have any alumni that may have graduated from the program. But I pretty much took a leap of faith, just seeing how things were. I'm like, sure, whatever, let's just do it. And I went into it, and I had to undertake a lot of computer science courses in my third year. So it was third year me going into first year classes again, and it was like that whole cycle of like going into a brand new program, just as if you're coming right out of high school and going into university. But it was I think it was a great decision for me to make because I was doing something that I liked, and it wasn't necessarily something that I would imagine myself doing if I was in accounting. Had I pursued my accounting specialist in its entirety. So I went through the whole process there of completing my management and IT specialization. I tried to be involved as much as I can on campus clubs, and then that's when I think a lot of the we got a lot more recognition especially with the new MTA group that was introduced on campus around that time. But I had already graduated by the time that club was spun up. So you can say like my journey through the IT program was a little bit like haphazard, but I think it was a great decision for me to make because it did really set me up for what I'm doing today. And I think that leap of faith really helped. And I just want to pay it back for people who are now interested in such a program. That if you are looking into having both a management and IT stream, or even somewhere in the lines of business and technology, then you should definitely look at the options that UTSC offers, because it's definitely evolving, and it's evolving based off of the industry needs.
Okay, thank you for that. Brady, let's hear about what you got you into this field.
Yeah, so originally it was the UTSC marketing pamphlets they had sent out, because when I accepted UTSC before first year, I thought the program sounded really cool, management and IT, and that is actually what sold me. But what makes it different possibly from others was I stuck the path too, and there were times of doubt, but I think what kept me going was when I took my first computer science course I nearly failed, but I learned more out of that course than I'd learned at any other course within UTSC at that point. And I realized that this was opening doors for me in other parts of my life, like automation. And my first co-op with Ontario Lottery and Gaming, similar to what Abdinur was saying, I had a lot of free time where I could automate a lot of the processes that they were doing. And that was like a puzzle that I wanted to keep working on. So that first co-op, as well as that first time where I really faced failure that close, and it pushed me to challenge myself to work harder. And I kind of fell in love with that automation part of the industry. And I realized that this offered me a unique selling point when I would go into the workforce, because when you can go in an office environment and you have those skill sets to automate and be versatile and nimble, it's pretty hard for them to let you go. It's pretty easy for them to keep you around, right? And I think that I always look at business and technology, and I kind of feel that data and systems are what intertwines it. So being involved in systems and data analytics is how I chose that area. So.
Fantastic, thank you. And Dion, what led you to this field?
Yeah, so while some people might have had the experience of like going into management and then switching into IT later, I was actually the complete opposite. So for me, 12th grade, I was a STEM student. Your physics, chem, double math, that was me in grade 11. And then I was reflecting and I was thinking, do I really want to be an engineer, or do I really want to be a software developer? And I realized that the answer was no. I didn't want to do that. That wasn't the path for me. So I said, okay, what's something close but not too far away? And for me, it was business. So I kind of, without really taking any real business courses besides like the leadership course in grade 12 and summer schooling accounting, I kind of just jumped into business with my STEM background. But I couldn't really get away from it. In my heart of hearts, I love tech, I love math, I love science. So I was like, okay, let's look for a program that kind of has both. And that's what led me to the IT program. Much like Brady and Abdinur, there was a lot of automation, right? It is so much fun knowing that you have just freed up 30 minutes of your day and not needing to worry about like doing a repetitive task that you hate. And you pretty much become probably the most liked person in your office, because they're going to come to you and they're going to be like, hey, Dion, I got this task. Can you get rid of it for me? And, through that, you develop connections, you talk to people, and it's just a really good feeling for you because you're solving a great puzzle, you're saving a lot of time for management, and your coworkers are no longer doing boring tasks. So it's a win-win-win for everyone.
I think we all like wins. That's fantastic. Let's talk about your first job in the field, or you can even talk about your first co-op if you wanted to, if you're in co-op. But talk a little bit about what that first job was like. But I think more importantly, I think many of the students would like to hear is, how did you get it? Especially after graduation. How did you find it? So let's start with Talha on this one. Talk about your first job and how did you find it?
Yeah, sure. So my first co-op was at Swiss VBS, and that was pretty much, it was a nightmare to find that job, just because, first of all, it was my first co-op, and second, I was admitted into the co-op program a little late. So I was a little late on the whole job searching and the whole, the management prep, work term prep course, was it called? I don't know what it's called now, but that's what it was called when I was taking it. So I didn't really have much insight on how to, beef up your resume and what exactly is like the best types of tips and tricks that we can implement when actually trying to apply. So I sent out perhaps on the upwards of 50 or 60 applications with only one response, and that was Swiss VBS, and that's the job that I got. And I think when I'm looking back, that the way that I got that job was through networking. We had a student UTSC management, I think it was an employer to student networking event, and Swiss VBS was one of the employers that had come. and I spoke to one of the people there, and I stayed connected with them after as well through email. I don't think I did much LinkedIn back then. So I just stayed in touch with them, appreciated their time, and expressed my interest in their company and how I wanted to apply and hopefully get a role with that company. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, I got an offer for an 8-month co-op at that company as well. So did that for my first co-op, and then my second co-op, again, networking. It was at RBC, so I was a project manager co-op at RBC, and that was again through networking. So I actually went to RBC, who was hosting a management networking event specifically for U of T students. So I went there, and I had already done my interview, and I thought I completely bombed it because I didn't walk out feeling like I actually impressed any of them. And I met my interviewer at the networking event, and I chatted with them, and I think I kind of redeemed myself with that. So I got an offer at RBC through a networking as well, and my full-time role at Accenture right out of university was again through networking. So it just happened to be that Accenture was on site for one of the MTA events, and I was speaking to a few of the representatives there, and Accenture was recruiting for their new grad program at the time, and I kept in touch with one of the people or the reps that came out from Accenture to UTSC, so that they can read over my resume and provide any enhancements to what I can bring about to the table for the application. And a few months later, I got offered for a position at Accenture. So yeah, I think the most important thing was building a great network and creating your personal brand. I think that was what was important when I was applying. Of course, everyone's a lot different with what they're looking for, but I felt like as long as you stick to your personal brand and you have that in your mind whenever you're talking to people, I think that's what's going to set you apart from the rest. So build out your personal brand. Stay connected with people even after networking events or even after interviews, and be cautious on how you're meeting that communication with the people that you want to keep in touch with.
Great, thank you. Definite theme with yours there. A lot of networking, which is great. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Brady, can you talk about how you got into your first job?
Yeah, Derek, I kind of mentioned earlier that I was headhunted through LinkedIn. So just a bit more background on that. I finished school, and I knew it would be a harder path to get something in Sudbury as I'd been away for 4 years. But I came back. I was unemployed for the first month and a half, but I was going to job fairs. Every week I was going into NORCAT, which is a startup incubator we have here in Sudbury, as I was still involved with a startup back in Toronto. So I was expanding my network there as well. And I was very fortunate and lucky, to be honest. I had something fall into my lap, and that is because of my LinkedIn, I believe, that caught the eye of a recruiting firm. So that was one of the points that was made at the beginning of this presentation, is LinkedIn. And I really do think it's important, because I didn't even know that there were recruiters looking in Sudbury for mining companies, right? And someone happened to see, oh, he's in Sudbury and he's a graduate, and it was an opportunity for an established mining company. And as I mentioned, I was lucky that I had the 4 interviews, and I got the part-time or the full-time contract role. And like I said, my first week, 3 people left the department, and that opened up the door for a full-time opportunity. So for me personally, there was a lot of luck involved, but I always encourage people to try to have that online presence with LinkedIn. And certainly, as Talha mentioned, networking is extremely important as well, because I'm confident if I didn't find the position through LinkedIn, I probably would have through networking.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do hear. I understand that. Now, for those who aren't familiar with what headhunting basically is, a recruiter just contacts you out of nowhere and says, "We found you. We like you. We want to talk to you about a job." That's pretty much it. It's unsolicited. I myself, and even though we're recording this, don't tell anyone, I've been headhunted twice so far this year because of my LinkedIn. I've had 2 recruiters contact me reach out to me. Obviously, I said no, but just from LinkedIn sitting there. So something to really think about if you're thinking about finding a job is having, again, that great online presence. It does pay off. Dion, let's hear about you.
Yeah, so for me, it's similar to Brady's story. I got very, very lucky. So first co-op, I'm super focused on my grades. I'm doing like one extracurricular, but I have no work experience. So even though my grades were really good, it was a very, very tough searching season for me. Near the tail end, I got an offer from Flip. And it was a really interesting company because it kind of showed me how much fun it could be to work at a company that was like a little more lax, that wasn't so strict. For the type of organization it was, like I played ping pong every day at lunch. That was kind of the company vibe. And one of the things that they helped me do was they gave me pretty much a hatred for manual work, because one of their core philosophies was to constantly improve things, constantly automate, innovate, improve. And that's something that I took with me to all my other co-ops and all my other, I guess my current job. So I did a stint at RBC. Working in cybersecurity, there is very little opportunity to really innovate because everything is very strict. So I didn't like it. OTPP, they hired me due to my prowess for automation, and I pretty much replaced half of their reports during my co-op. I impressed the manager so much so that by the time the new grad program was rolling out, he called me up in July and he said, "Do you want to join us in January? We have a position open." So for me, it was a combination of luck and just being kind of good at my job. But I would recommend networking. Every time I networked with CGI once, and it's pretty much the only reason I got the interview. So doing that sort of stuff, it does pay dividends, even though it didn't work out in my case.
Good to hear. And Abdinur, let's hear about you. Even though you're doing a master's program, I'm curious to hear about your other positions you've had.
Sure. I'm going to start with my co-ops very quickly, but it's very, very similar to Talha's story. I applied to maybe 30, 40 jobs, no response. I then got really frustrated. So what I used to do, I would just send my resume and my cover letter to whoever has a job post. And the way I got my first job was through a networking event organized by the management department. I met the employer there, had a nice chat with her, and I sent the follow-up email after the chat. And then she told me about a job they have open, an internship. I applied and I got the job. That was the pension fund experience. And then, so the second internship that I got was with Picton Mahoney, which is a hedge fund. I got the job I applied through job posts and I got in somehow. But my second job there as a quant, I was in the kitchen. So I was working at the company as lower level job, which is product analyst. During the lunch break, I went to the kitchen. I was just sitting there, and I was listening to the portfolio managers talk about a particular problem they had. And I was just there listening. I'm minding my own business. No, not minding my own business, but I was just listening. And I heard about this problem they had. Oops. Oh, my camera. Okay, I'll fix that in a second. But yeah, they had a problem and I heard it, and I went back home and I picked up a quick skill with Python and I fixed the problem. And hey, here it is. I fixed it. I solved the problem for you. And they were like, "Hey, come for another internship." So that's how I got my quant position, and I got it even though I didn't have a lot of comp sci courses. I didn't have a lot of math courses, and they didn't look at my resume, my grades, none of that. It was just mainly networking. And now that I graduated, I started seeking for jobs, and I am not applying through jobs through sending emails sending cover letters and resumes to to employers who have posted jobs, job postings. Instead, what I'm doing, I'm looking for a company that I find interesting, and then I would send a cold email saying, how can I be of help for them? Why I want to work for them. And the response rate has been, I would say 40%. nearly everybody that I talked to responded to me. And right now I have 2 job offers, and yeah, I'm really happy with this different, looking at job posting in a different way.
Mhm.
Sorry, job application in a different way. I'm sorry, my camera is really frustrating me. That's why I'm a little bit all over the place. I'm not
That's
sure what
okay. Don't
happened,
worry
but
about that.
I'll fix that right now.
Yeah, we can still hear you, which is important. So definite theme from all 4 of you, which is talking to people is a good thing. And you know, having that kind of presence out there is good. Not to say that resumes and sending them out isn't a bad thing per se, but you know, some of you said like 40 resumes you sent out, 1 phone call, right? But you talk to like 5 people, you have a job. So good to hear that, because this is something we talk a lot about at the Career Center, and we often hear people saying, oh, networking really doesn't work. Here are 4 examples of individuals who found work just from taking a chance. So what we're going to look at now is a little bit your academics. So I would like to know a little bit more about your academic experience. How did it prepare you for your opportunities you're getting into? But let's not only focus on your courses. Of course, you can talk about your courses, but let's also talk a little bit about additional things you did. I heard about clubs, for example, from one of your stories there. So you can talk about the additional things you did, such as joining clubs and extracurriculars, and how that helped you. So just overall, how did your academic experience prepare you for your industry? Brady, let's start with you on this one.
That's a great question, Derek. And I think for me personally, I found the tech or computer science courses a lot more helpful for me in the workplace. And that is because I like to think it opened up a different part of my brain almost, and that it gave me a new way to think about problems and how to solve them. And I think that's really the value I found in the computer science course. So, you know, I could go in a workplace and I could look at something from a financial perspective, but when you have that other part of your mind, the creative part, I like to think from the problem solving of computer science, that's really what the courses taught to me. And especially some of those calculus courses, I found those to be more helpful because it had me look at problems a different way. And that's not to say some of the other courses didn't help me. I think they've helped me a lot, but more in other aspects outside. So some of my extracurriculars, you know, I've been doing a bit of day trading. So there's certainly a lot of the finance courses that have helped with that, as well as in my teaching at Cambrian in the business analytics. You know, I use a lot of the business data analytics course content that we learned at UTSC. I try to implement to my students, but I think I don't think there's any course specifically that helped me. I like to think of it a holistic approach where all these courses kind of help me develop different parts.
Thank you. Dion, let's hear about your academic experience. Again, both academics and extracurriculars.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of it was, well, really, I felt like a lot of the courses helped me, not just the tech, but also the business. And I think for me, it was because I really didn't have any business sense before coming here, being a STEM student and all, thinking very rigidly in my like math tech sense. So while I think I definitely developed better programming skills, you know, I got better at querying databases, I got better at writing Python scripts, I got better at even some of the more mundane things like version control or like documentation. The CS courses definitely do a good job of that. Some of the stuff that I found extremely helpful from the management side, the communications course, you're going to end up in a presentation somewhere eventually. And it's always good to know how to do a presentation. The financial or a lot of the other courses gives a lot of background knowledge. So the first time I did my co-op at OTPP, I didn't take any finance courses at the time. So my manager, like, even though I knew how to work all the tech, I knew how to query the database, I knew how to write the scripts for him, I needed to sit down with him and have him explain to me how the stock market worked because I had no idea how it worked. So after doing those finance courses and then coming back now, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why we do this. This is why we check that. So it is definitely helpful. As for the stuff outside of the classroom, it really emphasizes your soft skills. So I was on MTA with Talha, you know, and working with sponsors, talking to sponsors, getting comfortable, putting yourself in situations that you normally wouldn't been able to in the classroom is, it's intangible. You can't really give it a value, but is definitely extremely valuable.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, I hear actually a lot about that communications course from students. Is that the most dreaded of all the courses, but the most useful one in the end. Excellent. Abdinur, let's hear about your academic experience.
Yeah, I think I have a similar thought to Brady and Dion. I think one of the things that that is worth mentioning is courses like HR. Like, given I was more of a, you know, a math guy, IT guy, whatever, and so I didn't take courses such as HR very seriously, but I think they're super important, especially like management skills. Um, I think probably don't take that course if you're in your second year. Maybe take it when you're a more mature student, because that way you'll really see the value of a course like that. Same thing, communication, super important. um, but yeah, I didn't get too involved into campus, unfortunately, my first few years, couple years actually, and I think that bit me a lot. It made my life super hard. Like, I would just, you know, study, focus on grades, but you know, it's hard to get a job. But the moment when I started to compete, when I started to get involved on campus, yeah, getting jobs became a lot easier. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
No, that's good. But that's a good thought there, that, you know, courses are extraordinarily important. But once you start getting into the real stuff, I guess you can say, such as many clubs do case competitions and things such as that, it's like, oh, that's how I actually put these formulas and theories into actual practice to do
That's right,
something
yeah.
with it. And that ignites something in you to actually do it. So one thing we always encourage, especially with management, there's so many amazing clubs that actually have you do things. Joining them is amazing, which takes me to Talha, because you're the one who actually talked about your club a little bit. So can you talk about your academic experience?
Yeah, for sure. So pretty much echoing what Brady, Dion, and Abdinur said, like it's a lot of what you do outside of the classroom that really determines the type of work that you want to do after graduating from university. So like I said, because I went into the IT stream, that was something that was interesting me at the time. But I wouldn't consider myself, or like, you know, market myself as like a software developer, even though I was taking software or computer science courses. That wasn't really what I wanted to do in the long term. I wanted to situate myself between both business and technology. And that was kind of the idea that I went on with even after graduating. Like, that's the type of role that I want to do. But when it comes to when I was in university and trying to be involved, like, that's one thing. If I was to give my first year self advice, like, hey, Talha, you should have been involved in clubs a lot earlier, because those are things, being involved and actually contributing to the to your program's community is what's going to be helping you to secure roles. And even being involved on campus would also grow your friends network, and also the network between yourself and the management staff and faculty. So I was involved. First year I didn't do anything. I was just focusing on my courses, like Dion was, pretty much like being head on onto courses only. But then I realized I should be being part of a lot of more different campus clubs. And I was part of TEDx UTSC. I was involved with MESA for a bit, and then Management and Tech Association, of course, and a few other clubs here and there that I could possibly be part of. But Management and Tech Association was probably the one that set me up, even though I wasn't directly part of the group. But I was able to kind of contribute what I learned throughout the years, and also give back to improving the management and IT program as much as I could. So again, like the clubs that you're part of definitely does determine how much your resume can be beefed up, and those are the kind of things that can help you secure a role that you may have not considered in the first place. So definitely be involved, and also try to create your kind of career path, like have a plan set in place after you graduate university on, like, you know, what type of courses I'm taking that might help me later on. One course specifically did help me, actually. I know the course code. It's CSTCO1. I don't know if that was Intro to Software Engineering or what was it, but it was a great course because it talked a lot about project management in conjunction with software development. And if you're going for a role that's a lot into software development, then it's an amazing role or an amazing course that you can take. But if you want to learn the ends of project management and business and also computer science and like software development, that was a great course for you to take as well. So I think that was one course that I felt, and it was in my last year as well, that really helped me to prepare for like the actual workforce and how teams actually run in an agile fashion and what are the ins and outs of like a whole software development team when it comes to a company.
Very good, thank you. So there's a couple themes that I saw pretty much was when it comes to courses, maybe try something a little not necessarily different, but off what you thought the straight path would have been to get a nice, robust and holistic set of skills, and get involved trying different things to build confidence, build skills, get the energy levels up. Very good. For the last few questions, instead of going around the circle the way you have been, let's do this more of a popcorn style where if you have something to share about it, you can. If you don't, that's fine. So the next question, again, this is more for popcorn. So answer this if you have anything you want to talk about it, is what big trends do you see happening in your field, let's say the next few years? What are the big movements that are going on in your industry? And again, this can be open to anybody who'd like to talk about that. What are some trends that you see happening?
Abdinur, I want to hear some stock market advice. Let's go.
Invest in the dip.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story, actually, a very quick one, because I know we're probably running out of time. But I have a professor two professors, actually. They're a couple. They're super smart. They both taught in Stanford. They taught mathematics. Very, very smart people. And they're teaching this course in St. George. They taught me, this course is called AI in Finance. And we're basically trying to use AI to trade stocks. And we're learning about all this complicated stuff. We're applying probability theory, physics, stuff from physics, from I don't know, econometrics, like a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of topics that they brought in. Again, they're very smart people. And I was working on my project, and I saw that it doesn't really work very well in practice. And so once I had a call with the professor, and I'm like, okay, I have a very simple question for you. How do you invest your money? You're so smart, you have all this education. So how do you invest your money? And they told me, hey, we'll just look in the last 12 months, if stocks in general or the S&P 500 has done better than the bonds or fixed income assets, then we buy the S&P 500. Otherwise, we just buy the the bonds, right? That's what they do. Like it's two simple ETFs that they trade. An ETF is basically a product that you can buy that contains lots of stocks or lots of bonds. So it's just two different tickers. And the returns from this have been phenomenal. So I don't think that you can really make money from trading stocks like actively. I'm not a believer in that because I've read lots of academic papers about that. I asked lots of smart people like my professors here. I've read books. So for example, interesting book is called Fooled by Randomness. Like you might make a lot of money by trading actively, but it could be all just luck. It's a numbers. It's just probability essentially. And in terms of trend, I can see that lots of money managers that charge a lot of money, those I think they're gonna go away because people are now more educated. They know that they've been charged a lot of money, and they know they can make more money by just buying, for example, all the big stocks in the United States or Canada, whatever, simple investing strategies like that. I don't think that AI or any of this jargon that you hear is gonna, I don't know, give you any better returns, no matter how complicated it is. I haven't heard of a single person that's really successful doing this kind of stuff, except maybe Jim Simons. But yeah, I am personally going to work in Robo Advisors. I don't know if you guys have heard of those, but essentially what they do is they see what's your investment horizon is, how much risk you're willing to take, and they all they do is they buy you a very, very simple investment product, and they charge you very little fees. So that's what I think the future is heading, and that's what I'm going.
Thank you very much. How about the rest of you? Any trends you're seeing in your field in the next few years?
Mining, it's going to be dominated by robots. I think that's where the industry is moving for sure. It's going to be safer, so it's a very exciting time to be in the mining industry. I find there's a lot of, how should I say this? We're a little behind, I believe, in some of these areas. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for those that are in the tech industry to come into the mining industry and show us the potential of what robotics can we have underground doing jobs that is much safer than having humans do them underground, and instead you can remote control them. And I think especially with electric cars and the EV industry, you know, there's going to be more mining of cobalt and possibly manganese and other minerals that are related to electric vehicle batteries. So we could see a lot of investments in there from, you know, some of our big EV companies. And I would say those are the biggest trends we'll see in mining over the next 5-10 years.
Good.
I would
Anybody
say
else wish to share before we go to
automation
our
is
next question?
relevant.
Go ahead, Tom.
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying automation, what a lot of people have already raised, and relevance. I think those are the top two things I feel are going to be really important when it comes to technology platforms in the next 5 years. Everything's going to be automated, or your job is highly dependent on how automated you can, or how much of your job you can automate, and how much are you taking on that's actually improving your product. And another aspect is the relevance of what you're doing as well. How relevant is what your current capacity compared to what it will be in the next 5 years or so. I think those are two things that come to my mind.
Great. Thank you so much.
Kind of echoing what everyone's saying, automation, but there's one specific thing that I'm looking at, and it's not like artificial intelligence, but rather robotic process automation, so RPA. And the reason why that this is so interesting is because unlike a lot of like AI that uses statistics, RPA is essentially you're programming a whole bunch of commands for the computer to do that mimic a person. And the scary part about it is you can slap it on top of any legacy system. So, you know, you don't need to spend hours training like a model to do it. You kind of just give it a few commands and it'll do what a human would have done, like on Excel or on a website. So that I think could be something that's coming up in the future.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Next question, professional designations. Have you thought about getting them? Do you need them? Abdinur, I would like to hear about why you chose to get a master's degree. So let's open up that one. Anybody think about getting a designation? Do you need one for your field? I often get students asking that. Should I get this certification? What do y'all think about that?
Specifically in what I'm doing, I wouldn't pursue a professional designation like a master's or some sort. I never had the intention to, but what I was mostly targeting was certifications. I felt in my stream of work, certification is really important. I am trying to build up my Salesforce certification portfolio, so that's what I am mostly studying on. Depends on person to person, but personally, I wouldn't, at this moment in time, or from what I've researched and what I can see, I wouldn't think of doing my master's at the moment. But I do think that if you want to stay on top of a lot of the changes in the industry, certifications is the way to go, and it's something that you can start in university as well. It doesn't have to be after you graduate. You can be working on certifications such as, you know, completing some courses on Coursera. LinkedIn has a lot of courses that you can do. Even for Salesforce, I'm doing some self-promotion here, but for Salesforce, you can undertake some professional certifications in Salesforce, and you can definitely do that within your course load too. So it just depends on what you want to do. and work towards it. And I think professional certifications is definitely something that a lot of employers consider. So if you do have a certification that you're working on, and you put it on your resume, that's definitely 100% going to stand out on your resume, because again, it can act as like an extracurricular that you're working on, and that is definitely considered when you're applying to positions that are relevant to what you're looking for.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else want to talk about professional designations?
I'll say 2 points. One is never stop learning. I don't think it matters what designation or certification you're doing, but never stop learning. And even if you're working a 40-hour-a-week job, you still got to take time outside of that to do some self-learning. I think that's very important. And I'm sure I can speak for all the panelists here today that they do a lot of self-learning on their free time. The second would be, I think this is personal opinion, but I will share. If you're going to pursue a research type role or research position, then I certainly see the value of extra education outside the undergrad. I think if you want to be a subject matter expert on something, for sure. But if you want to operate or manage, I think the workplace is a much more important place for that.
Very good, thank you. Any final thoughts on further education or designation? Okay. So our final formal question, then we'll jump to the chat questions with the remainder of time, is what can students do to best prepare themselves to be competitive once they graduate? So looking back on your time, if you could give advice to yourself, what advice could you give to these students? What can they do to be competitive? How can they set themselves up? Who'd like to go first on that? Go ahead,
I'll go
Dion.
first.
Yeah.
So, and I tell this to all the management students, every single one I speak to, just get really good at Excel. Just do yourself the favor, just get really good at Excel, because you're going to use it. No matter where you go, you're going to use it, and being good at Excel is never a bad thing. The other thing that it does is it sets up a lot of the primary logic that you need if you want to do more development style work. It gives you, the experience or some of the experience you need to like learn Python or to learn SQL or to learn Power BI. So just do yourself the favor, go to like a boot camp and get good at Excel. And that works out for me. That's what landed me my second co-op, but don't neglect your soft skills either. That's kind of it.
Important. Great, thank you. Anybody else? What advice do you have for the students? How can they be competitive?
I would say network. Read a book on networking. Talk to the co-op department or the ACNC department and how to network better. What are some resources for that? I think it's super important. The stuff that you do, the complicated stuff that you do in classes, you might take a lot of time solving this particular, finding this particular derivative or integral, or how to do this particular accounting thing. I mean, those things, they're good, but they're probably not the most important thing. The most important thing is often the small stuff like networking and communication. And other than that, like I would say, clubs is a good way to network. You'll talk with other students and you'll meet employers. You'll get involved into events and stuff. And finally, last thing I would say is maybe take some practical courses as well, because especially if you're in comp sci, the courses you take in UTSC, they do a really good job teaching you the fundamentals, and it's amazing stuff, right? But when you go to work, you might need something more practical. So websites like udemy.com, I think have helped me a lot. And by the way, to do the practical stuff, you really need to get the fundamentals right. I'm just saying, like, the practical stuff is complementary to what you learn at school. So yeah, it's a network and maybe learn applied skills.
It's fantastic. Thank you. Any other pieces of advice before we jump to the chats? Okay. So we got about 15 minutes left. I will do my best, students who are attending, to get through all the questions. We have quite a lot here, so I apologize. We'll just go in straight order as they came in from the top to the bottom. Unfortunately, if we don't get to yours at the bottom, I do apologize, but let's see what we can cover here. Starting with the first one we have is, Abner, can you talk about how you minored in computer science, well, management, because for my knowledge, specialist programs cannot have a major or minor.
This is actually not the first time I got this question, but yeah, I'm not too sure. I would recommend you reach out to maybe the management department or someone. I'm not too sure, but I can tell you that I do have a minor and a specialist in my transcript.
Okay, so reach out to the department to find out. Great, thank you.
Right.
Brady, this one's for you. Can you talk a little bit about your first tech-related co-op you had, as well as how your Pepsi co-op related to your IT knowledge?
Yeah, so I did see this question earlier. So I did talk a bit about OLG, but I didn't mention anything about Pepsi. So I'd like to focus my response on that. So Pepsi role was definitely more of a business role, but I had heard a lot of good things about PepsiCo, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. It is a fantastic company, and I have no regrets about taking my co-op there. So I had a lot of fun, and as far as my tech skills, there was definitely some opportunity to automate and help out with a lot of dashboards as well as macros to assist in their day-to-day functions. But it was certainly the role I was in was more of a business type environment. I was in corporate sales, so our team or our department was our customers were Amazon and Costco. So what was really cool was I got to learn a lot about their business models and how unique both of them were. So if anyone wants to reach out to me through LinkedIn to hear more about Pepsi or any of my co-ops, feel free to. I'd love to speak more about them anytime.
And before we end, actually, if any of the panelists do want to drop their contact info into the chat, you're more than welcome to. We'll do it at the end because there might be some more questions coming in. You don't have to. It's up to you if you want to throw your LinkedIn profile in there or contact it. We can do that at the end there. Abdinur, you're very popular tonight. We've got another question for you. Can you talk about how your computer science minor helped you in understanding quantitative trading and helped you land the co-op internship? And also, why did you choose the CS minor instead of switching to an IT specialist?
Okay. So there's two components to this question. So the first one is how CS minor helped me with quantitative trading. Well, quantitative trading is essentially you have rules based on like you use math to design these rules. For example, if the correlation or the relationship between these two assets is this much, if I don't know, if the expected return is this low. So it's basically you need some level of math there, but you need a computer to help you compute all these numbers, and you also need a computer to help you assess whether your strategy has worked or not. Let's say you have this particular strategy. Let's say you buy the stock every time it dips. So that's a simple quantitative rule, right? But how do you go and test it? You can't use Excel for that. It's going to take you forever. So what you do, you probably develop something with Python. So you need programming. And that's where ComSci helped me a lot. So I can program my investment strategies and I can test whether they work or not. And the second component of this question is, why do you choose CS minor instead of switching to IT specialist? It's because I'm intrigued by finance. I like it a lot. I like the complexity of it. I like the randomness of it. It's just, when you're doing ComSci, you have to specialize somewhere, right? You have to specialize in a particular industry. For me, I just specialize in the financial industry. That's what I'm applying my ComSci skills at. Yeah.
Very good. Now, there's a couple more questions there for Abdinur, but you know what? We'll give you a bit of a break there and hop to one for everybody. And it says, this is for anyone here, is what do you like most and fulfilling about your current job? So we all have things that we do in our job, but what's that thing you like in your job right now that gets you through the money? Okay, Brady, yes, we know money's important. Okay, besides the financial compensation, what else is something that just really excites you about what you're doing? What gives you that energy and that smile? Who would like to answer that one?
I can go. I think I touched upon it in my answers for the previous questions, but the thing that gets me up and going is being part of a team and a culture that's cultivating to growth. That's the most important thing that I feel when actually even looking for a job or even my day-to-day. working for a company that's cultivating your growth, like it's helping you grow professionally as well as like personally too. Those are two important things that you should always look out for within any role. You don't want to be always dragged down in work and not caring for yourself as well. I think you should be working for a company that's catering towards your personal and your mental growth, and also your well-being. So yeah, just look out for those things when you're looking for a role, and just always look at the fit for yourself, and the corporate fit and your personal fit too.
Great. How about the other panelists? What besides the financial compensation, which is of course why we need to work, what gets you excited about your job?
I think for me, it's there's two components. Because like I work at a pension fund for teachers, and that's really cool. Like I know that what I'm doing will make sure, I'm thinking like, oh, my grade school teachers or like my secondary school teachers, the ones that I liked, they're going to be able to retire and live a good life after they're done teaching the next generation. The other things is I like knowing that what I'm doing makes someone's life better. So especially with the automation, one of my coworkers, they might not like this task because it's so repetitive and boring, being able to get rid of that for them, right? Free up their time for them to go learn or do something more productive. That's a good feeling. And the last thing is intellectual stimulation. I just like solving problems. It's kind of just in the nature.
That's great. Okay. Anybody else? What makes you excited?
I'll put a couple of things here. One would be Power BI. I thoroughly enjoy working with Power BI. I could spend 10 hours on it. I just think it's a really cool program, and there's so much more that I have to learn. So I like that part of it. But I do also want to make a point that is deep from my heart, and it's been kind of driving a lot of my decision making in life. And that's, I believe there's two types of people: that you work to live or you live to work. And there's no right or wrong. There are people that love what their job is and want to enjoy their job and their day to day. And then there are people that they like to do their job, but it's more so they can enjoy the other parts outside, and they want to do more things outside. So something to keep in mind. That's always been a mantra that I've kept close to me. So.
Good, very good. Yes, different philosophies. And I like what was being said there about, choosing company culture, for example. One fun thing is, again, I do the career side with many of the students, and I see this a lot, with more of the finance accounting students, where they all say, I want to work for the Big Four, right? I always hear that every student who, not every, but because I help with the finding co-ops as well, do the resumes, interviews and stuff. And I say, okay, so what kind do you want to apply for? The Big Four. Any other options? No, just those. Right. And it's just not saying the Big Four, there's anything wrong with them. They're fantastic companies. They're the Big Four for a reason, but it's just understanding that there's other companies out there, other environments, other values. And that's important, is to start thinking about what kind of place do you actually want to work for? Large company, small company. I heard many of you say that you like the dynamicness, the differences of being able to try different things. Other individuals want the more stability, right? It's a lot of variance out there, and I've noticed for myself in my career is, I've changed over times too of what I liked, and that's part of the way it works. Good to hear that. Okay, one more quick question for Abdinur, then we're going to wrap up, because you have a website. Someone wants to know more about your website.
Oh yes, so I built a little tool called NSQ, and what sparked that idea was, so in my role at the hedge fund, again, my job was to find out why the competitors' products essentially suck and ours are good. And so I essentially went through like pretty much like all mutual funds and hedge funds in Canada, and I noticed one thing: out of all these 100 hedge funds and mutual funds, is that very, very few of them will do better than a simple index fund. Okay. And hedge funds, what they charge is 2-3%. The hedge fund I was at was charging like 2.5%, and I found that ridiculous. And so after I wasn't very happy there. And I mean, I'm happy about the work. I love the people; they're amazing. But I just wasn't. The mission did not align with my interests. And so yeah, I kind of built NSQ out of which is my tool, out of frustration, I want to teach people about index fund investing. So that's why I built that tool. And it's also a way for me to really, really express to potential employers or potential future coworkers that I'm really passionate about making investing number one, simple and low fee.
Very good. Thank you so much. We're just at a final couple of minutes here, and I'm aware of the time. We're almost at 7, so we can do a little bit of wrap up. I know some other questions and stuff, but I don't want to go over because it's thankfully everybody's able to make it out, even though we're all working from home. It's nice to get away from the computer and say I'm not working anymore. So I do appreciate all 4 of you coming out. This is amazing. Lots of information, lots of questions, great stories, absolutely fantastic. I'd love to hear the journeys, and I'm sure many of the students here as well was very happy to hear the fact that there is, a journey and a story. And even in these, I know it's cliche, these trying times, we keep on hearing that, but that there's opportunity, right? There is opportunity. We see with Dion, for example, got that job in 2020, the year we all want to forget. You got a position, fantastic. And all of you seem to be, working very well, but I would, from my perception of what I'm seeing here is that all 4 of you worked for it, right? I heard a lot of, I got lucky. This wasn't luck. It might seem like it, but from hearing is you set yourself, you set yourself up, you tried, you did different things, you took chances, you engaged. Yes, there is a quote unquote luck in the sense that someone replies back to you. It was luck that, you happened to be in the I think it was Abner said you're in the kitchen hearing a discussion at one point, right? You just happen to be there at that place, right? Yeah, there is those circumstances, but a lot of it's too that all 4 of you really put it down, the foundations. You weren't always sure about things. You changed ideas sometimes, right? Yeah, you tried different things out, but you worked. And I think that's what all the students here is can take away as a final note is that there's possibilities, there's opportunities. But you gotta find them. Yes, I got headhunted. Brady got headhunted from a LinkedIn account. You want to know what? We worked on our LinkedIn accounts, right? It just wasn't our name. There's something in there that people found interesting, So even that was putting the work into it.
I'd like to add a point, Derek, after you mentioned about luck. I actually wanted to say I wanted to take back that answer because I don't think that's what the students want to hear. And I think it's have something you're passionate about, right? And make that the driving force. It doesn't have to be a career or it doesn't have to be that job or a title, but it has to be something. And like for me, I was passionate about moving to Sudbury. So every other thing I did, like beefing up my LinkedIn and so on, that was the driving force on what made me happy, right? So if you have something you're passionate about, and a goal in mind, everything else will come into play around it.
For sure. So what I'm just going to drop here in the chat, thank you, this great Brady, is find that passion, do something that you're enjoying here. So what I'm putting right now is the contact information for the ANCC. So again, students, you have a career center. It amazes me when we hear management students saying they get no career help, and it's like, I literally work for your career center. So you do have it. There's the contact information there, the phone number and email address. So please take that down and make an appointment. Again, everything from resumes to LinkedIn, career questions, whatever you need, we can definitely help you with. If any of the panelists was to drop any of their contact or LinkedIn stuff in there, they can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up because we're just at 7 o'clock right now. So I just want to thank you. Again, the 4 of you for popping in. This is great. Thank you, students, for making it tonight. We do appreciate that. Hope you were able to get some real life learning and realize that, yes, there is life outside of UTSC. I see Abner's put his contact information in there, so you can go through the chats, leave it open for a minute. Everyone wants to copy that down. But yes, there is life outside of UTSC. You will survive. After you get your virtual diploma at this point, or your physical one at some point, you can do it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you are welcome. This is awesome. I'm going to stop the recording there. And